There is a bird alive tonight that was born before your grandparents were. It has crossed every ocean on Earth. It has flown more than 8 million kilometers in its lifetime. And right now, somewhere over the open sea in the dark, it is still flying. Tonight, we follow it. Hello there and welcome to the Sleepy Science Facts channel. Tonight we will be drifting into the world of birds. Not simply the ones that visit your garden or the ones you hear through the window in the early morning, but the whole of it, the full, extraordinary, ancient, and deeply surprising world of the most diverse group of vertebrates on land, a group that has been on this planet for over 150 million years and has, in that time, colonized every continent, every ocean, every desert, every mountain range, and every island on Earth, including the most remote specks of rock in the middle of the most isolated ocean on the planet. Birds navigate by the stars, by the magnetic field of the Earth, by the smell of the wind, and by maps they have never been shown but somehow carry inside them from birth. They communicate in dialects that differ from valley to valley. They use tools, remember faces, hold grudges, grieve their dead, and dance. Some of them sleep while flying. Some of them can see colors that no human eye can perceive. Some of them have been the same species, unchanged in every meaningful way, since the time of the dinosaurs. And some of them, the ones we know least about, have only been seen by science once, in a single brief encounter, and have never been seen again. After centuries of ornithological study, the science of birds has reached extraordinary depth, and yet birds continue to reveal behaviors, capabilities, and connections that no one anticipated. From the largest bird that has ever flown over this planet to the smallest, from the penguin swimming in darkness under Antarctic ice to the swift spending nearly its entire life in the air without ever landing, the world of birds rewards patience and attention with something genuinely astonishing at every turn. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. Let your body soften and allow your breathing to slow and allow the day to gently fade away as we explore the mysteries of birds together. Let's begin. Birds are living dinosaurs, and this is not a metaphor or poetic exaggeration, but a precise scientific statement. The evolutionary lineage that produced modern birds is nested within the dinosaurs, specifically within the theropod dinosaurs, the group that includes Tyrannosaurus rex and Velociraptor. The transition from non-avian dinosaurs to birds happened gradually over tens of millions of years, with a boundary between dinosaur and bird becoming increasingly difficult to draw as the fossil record fills in. Feathered dinosaurs are now known from exceptional fossil sites in China and elsewhere, showing creatures with full feather coats, wishbones, and other bird-like features who are nonetheless unambiguously dinosaurs in every other sense. Archaeopteryx, discovered in Bavaria in 1861 and long considered the first true bird, have fully developed flight feathers but also retain teeth, clawed wings, and a long bony tail, features found in no living bird. The gradual accumulation of bird features in the fossil record over the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods tells a story of evolutionary change so incremental that the question of when a dinosaur becomes a bird has no clean answer. What is clear is that when the asteroid struck 66 million years ago and the non-avian dinosaurs disappeared, one lineage of small, feathered, flying dinosaurs survived, and from that lineage descended every bird alive today. When you watch a crow solving a puzzle or a hummingbird hovering at a flower, you are watching a dinosaur, refined by 66 million years of evolution into something the Cretaceous could not have predicted. The feather is one of the most remarkable structures produced by evolution, and its origins are far older and stranger than most people realize. The earliest feathers were not flight structures at all. The fossil evidence suggests that feathers first evolved as insulation, providing thermal regulation for small, active dinosaurs in the same way that fur evolved independently in the mammalian lineage. From this beginning as simple filaments, feathers diversified through evolution into an extraordinary range of forms serving many different functions. Display feathers, exemplified by the peacock's tail, evolved under the pressure of sexual selection, with individuals whose ornate display attracted more mates producing more offspring and passing on the genes for more elaborate display. Contour feathers, the smooth outer feathers that give a bird its streamlined shape, evolved partly for aerodynamics and partly for waterproofing, the interlocking barbules forming a surface that shed water rather than absorbing it. Down feathers provide insulation in a layer beneath the contour feathers, trapping air in their loose, fluffy structure. Bristle feathers around the beak of certain insect-eating birds may serve a sensory function, detecting the movement of prey near the bill. The same basic structure, a central shaft with branching barbs that themselves branch into barbules, has been modified by evolution into all of these forms and many others, producing from a single ancestral structure a toolkit of such versatility that it has served birds in every environment from the Arctic tundra to the equatorial desert to the open ocean. The feather did not evolve for flight. Flight is one of the things it eventually made possible. The albatross is one of the most extraordinary birds on Earth, and the wandering albatross in particular has a biology that seems designed to push every boundary of what is possible for a flying creature. With a wingspan of up to 3.5 meters, the largest of any living bird, the wandering albatross uses a technique called dynamic soaring to travel enormous distances across the Southern Ocean with almost no expenditure energy. Dynamic soaring exploits the gradient of wind speed between the ocean surface, where friction slows the wind, and the air a few meters above, where the wind blows much faster. The albatross descends toward the surface into the headwind, gaining speed, then turns and climbs into the faster wind higher up, banking the energy gained in the descent into height, then glides back down again. By working this gradient continuously, an albatross can travel at speeds of up to 80 kilometers per hour while barely moving its wings, locking its shoulder joints in a mechanism that hold the wings extended with almost no muscular effort. Albatrosses have been tracked traveling over 1,000 kilometers per day. Individuals fitted with tracking devices have been found to circumnavigate the entire Southern Ocean, covering distances of over 70,000 kilometers on a single foraging trip. One individual fitted with a satellite tag was tracked for over 5 years, during which time it covered distances exceeding 580,000 kilometers without ever coming to land. The albatross does not simply fly over the ocean. It lives on it, sleeping on the water, eating from it, spending years at a time in the air above it, and returning to land only to breed. Let your breathing slow a little. Let the darkness of the room settle. The birds we are following tonight are in no hurry, and neither are we. The migration of birds is one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the natural world, and the distances some species travel with navigational precision that challenges every engineering comparison are only beginning to be understood. The Arctic tern, the bird mentioned in our opening, holds the record for the longest migration of any animal on Earth. It breeds in the Arctic during the northern summer, feeds in the Antarctic during the southern summer, and makes this round trip every year of its life, which can span 30 years or more. The total distance covered in a lifetime of migration is estimated at over 2.5 million kilometers, equivalent to 3 return trips to the moon. But distance alone does not capture what makes bird migration extraordinary. The precision of it is what astonishes. A bar-tailed Godwit tag in Alaska was tracked making a non-stop flight of 11,600 kilometers to New Zealand, crossing the entire Pacific Ocean without stopping, without eating, without drinking, in approximately 11 days. Before departure, the bird's digestive organs shrink dramatically to reduce weight, its flight muscles enlarge, and its body fat content increases to provide the fuel for a journey that will burn it away entirely. It arrives in New Zealand having lost more than half its body weight, lands on a mudflat, and begins feeding. The navigational feat involved in crossing the largest ocean on Earth without landmarks, without stopping, at altitudes and in conditions where no visual reference to the ground is possible, would be considered extraordinary in any context. In a bird weighing less than half a kilogram, it is almost beyond comprehension. Birds navigate by multiple systems operating simultaneously, and the sophistication of these systems has surprised researchers who have spent decades studying them. The sun compass allows birds to use the position of the sun and their internal clock to determine direction, compensating for the sun's movement across the sky throughout the day. The star compass, learned during a critical period after hatching when young birds observe the rotation of the night sky, allows navigation by night using the celestial pole as a fixed reference. The magnetic compass, perhaps the most surprising of the three, allows birds to detect the inclination of the Earth's magnetic field and use it as a directional reference. The mechanism behind magnetic sensing in birds is still being investigated, but the leading hypothesis involves a protein called cryptochrome found in the cells of the eye that may undergo quantum mechanical reactions sensitive to the direction of the magnetic field, potentially allowing the bird to see the magnetic field as a visual overlay on its normal vision. Some species also use smell, detecting the characteristic chemical signatures of different air masses and land masses from hundreds of kilometers away. And some species use infrasound, low-frequency sound below the range of human hearing, produced by weather systems, ocean waves, and mountain ranges, to maintain a broad geographic orientation even when other cues are unavailable. Birds do not navigate by one system. They navigate by several simultaneously, cross-checking them against each other and weighting them according to conditions. The result is a navigational capability that no single technology we have built can replicate in a package of comparable size. The dawn chorus, the outburst of birdsong that begins before sunrise each morning in temperate forests and woodlands, is one of the most complex acoustic events in nature, and its structure reflects millions of years of evolutionary negotiation over the acoustic space of the morning. The chorus begins in darkness, well before there is enough light to see, with certain species always singing first. In European woodland, robins and blackbirds typically lead, their songs penetrating the quiet before other species join. Species begin singing in a sequence that has been consistent enough to be used as a measure of light levels over time, with changes in the timing of first song in different species reflecting changes in dawn light intensity over seasons and years. Each species occupies a somewhat different frequency range in the acoustic spectrum, reducing the overlap between songs and making it easier for birds of each species to hear members of their own kind above the noise of the others. The purpose of the dawn chorus is primarily territorial and reproductive. Males are broadcasting their presence, their health, and their claim to territory to rivals and potential mates, and the intensity of competition means that only birds in peak condition can sustain the vocal effort required. The dawn chorus is loudest in spring, during the breeding season, and diminishes as the season progresses and territories are established. Researchers have found that the complexity and consistency of a male bird song correlates with measures of his health and genetic quality, meaning that females listening to the chorus in the early morning are receiving real information about the males competing for their attention.
Now let your muscles go heavy. Let the weight of your body rest completely. There is no effort needed here, not even the effort of staying awake. The intelligence of corvids, the family of birds that includes crows, ravens, rooks, jays, and magpies, has been studied intensively enough to overturn fundamental assumptions about the relationship between brain structure and cognitive ability. Corvids have brains that are large relative to their body size but organized very differently from mammalian brains, lacking the layered cortex that is considered the seat of higher cognition in mammals. For a long time, this led researchers to assume that birds could not be as cognitively sophisticated as mammals. The behavior of corvids has thoroughly disproved this assumption. New Caledonian crows manufacture and use tools in the wild with a precision and variety that has no parallel in any non-human, non-primate animal. They craft hooks from twigs, select the most effective leaves for probing, and can solve multi-step problems that require using one tool to obtain another. Ravens plan for the future, setting aside food or objects for situations they anticipate but have not yet encountered, a behavior that requires a mental representation of a future state that does not yet exist. Jays that have stolen food from other jays will re-hide their own caches when they notice they were observed, because they know from their own experience as thieves that an observer is a potential thief. This ability to attribute knowledge states to other individuals, called theory of mind, was long considered uniquely human. Corvids remember individual human faces for years and will respond differently to people they associate with past threats versus those they associate with neutral or positive encounters. They hold what appear to be communal gatherings around the bodies of dead flock members, standing in silence before dispersing. Whatever is happening in those gatherings, it is something that a 300-gram bird with a brain the size of a walnut is doing that most of us have not made sense of yet. Penguins are birds that gave up flight for swimming, and the trade-off has produced some of the most extraordinary adaptations in the avian world. The ancestors of modern penguins were flying seabirds, and the transition to flightlessness happened as natural selection favored individuals whose wings were increasingly effective in the water at the cost of being less effective in the air. The wing bones of penguins are denser and less hollow than those of flying birds, reducing buoyancy and making diving easier. Their wings, now functioning as flippers, are shorter and stiffer than flight wings and generate lift in water rather than air in a stroke pattern very similar to flight. Emperor penguins, the largest living penguin species, can dive to depths of over 560 meters and hold their breath for over 20 minutes, enabled by blood chemistry that stores more oxygen per unit volume than any other bird, muscles rich in myoglobin that provide an additional oxygen reserve, and a controlled reduction in heart rate during a dive that reduces oxygen consumption. The emperor penguin breeds in the most extreme conditions voluntarily endured by any bird, incubating its single egg through the Antarctic winter in temperatures reaching -60 degrees Celsius and wind speeds of 200 kilometers per hour. The male stands for about 65 days without eating, balancing the egg on his feet beneath a brood pouch, while the female is at sea feeding. The males huddle together in groups of thousands, rotating slowly from the cold exterior to the warm interior of the huddle, a collective behavior that reduces each individual's heat loss by up to 50% compared to standing alone. The penguin abandoned the sky and in doing so became one of the most capable marine hunters on Earth. The smallest bird on Earth is the bee hummingbird of Cuba, which weighs approximately 1.6 grams, less than a paperclip, and the biology required to sustain that tiny body is operating at the absolute edge of what vertebrate physiology can achieve. Hummingbirds are the only birds capable of sustained hovering flight, achieved through a wing stroke in which both the downstroke and the upstroke generate lift, unlike other birds where only the downstroke is aerodynamically effective. This is accomplished by rotating the wing through a figure-8 pattern at frequencies of up to 80 beats per second in the smallest species, generating the characteristic humming sound that gives them their name. The metabolic rate required to sustain this activity is the highest of any warm-blooded animal relative to body size. A hummingbird's heart beats up to 1,200 times per minute during flight. Its body temperature while active reaches 40 degrees Celsius. It must eat approximately half its body weight in nectar every day to fuel its metabolism. A hummingbird that cannot feed for 3 or 4 hours will die of starvation. To survive cool nights when feeding is impossible, hummingbirds enter a state called torpor, reducing their body temperature to near the ambient air temperature and dropping their metabolic rate by as much as 95%. A torpid hummingbird is cold to the touch and effectively unconscious, its heart rate dropping from over 1,000 beats per minute to as few as 50, its oxygen consumption falling to a fraction of normal. Each morning it must rewarm itself, a process that takes up to an hour, before it can fly and feed again. The hummingbird lives its life at a pace that has no equivalent anywhere else in the vertebrate world. Breathe slowly. Let the night be quiet around you. The hummingbird has gone into its torpor by now, its tiny heart barely beating somewhere in the dark, and the world has slowed to match it. The peregrine falcon is the fastest animal on Earth, achieving diving speeds of over 380 kilometers per hour in a hunting stoop, and the aerodynamic adaptations that make this possible have been studied by aerospace engineers as models for high-speed design. The peregrine does not simply fall. It actively controls its descent, angling its wings and adjusting its body position to maximize speed and control the direction of the stoop with precision enough to strike a target moving at speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour. At 380 kilometers per hour, the air pressure on the front of the bird's body would collapse ordinary lungs on inhalation, but the peregrine has small bony tubercles in its nostrils that deflect the incoming air and reduce the pressure, allowing normal breathing throughout the dive. Its eyes have 2 foveas, regions of concentrated photoreceptors providing acute vision, rather than the single fovea found in most vertebrates, allowing it to track prey ahead and to the side simultaneously. Its nictitating membrane, a transparent third eyelid, closes during the final moment of the strike to protect the eye from debris and impact. The visual acuity of a peregrine has been estimated at up to 8 times that of a human, meaning it can see a pigeon from over 8 kilometers away. The peregrine was nearly driven to extinction in North America by the pesticide DDT in the mid-20th century, which thinned its eggshells to the point where they collapsed under the weight of incubating adults. Following the banning of DDT and intensive recovery programs, it has made one of the most successful conservation comebacks of any bird species, and it now nests on skyscrapers in major cities, hunting urban pigeons above streets that its ancestors never knew existed. Birds use tools with a sophistication that continues to surprise researchers, and the diversity of tool use across unrelated bird species suggests that this capability has evolved independently many times rather than being inherited from a single common ancestor. The New Caledonian crow is the most studied tool user among birds, but it is far from the only one. Egyptian vultures throw stones at ostrich eggs to crack them open, selecting rocks of appropriate size and weight for the task. Herons have been observed dropping insects, bread, and feathers onto the surface of water to attract fish, using bait that they did not find naturally but identified as effective and sought out deliberately. Burrowing owls collect animal dung and place it around the entrance of their burrows to attract dung beetles, which they then eat, a form of bait setting that requires planning and an understanding of cause and effect. Woodpecker finches of the Galapagos use cactus spines and twigs to probe for insects in tree bark, holding the tool in the bill and adjusting its length when a shorter probe would be more effective. The bearded vulture, or lemurgia, drops bones from great heights onto rocks to break them and access the marrow inside, and has been observed doing this repeatedly at specific anvil sites used over many years, suggesting the behavior is learned and transmitted culturally within populations. The breadth of tool use across such distantly related bird species is a reminder that the cognitive architecture required for this behavior is accessible to any brain of sufficient complexity, regardless of whether it is built of cortical layers or bird-specific structures. The tools are different. The intelligence is real. Some birds are capable of vocal learning in a way that parallels human language acquisition to a degree that has fascinated linguists and neuroscientists. Songbirds, parrots, and hummingbirds are the three known groups of birds capable of vocal learning, meaning they acquire their vocalizations by listening to and imitating others rather than producing them fully formed as innate behavior. Young songbirds go through a critical sensitive period in which they listen to adult song and form a template of the song they will eventually produce. They then go through a practice phase, producing imperfect imitations that gradually refine toward the template, analogous in its structure to the babbling phase in human infants. The neural pathways involved in songbird vocal learning bear striking similarities to those involved in human speech, involving a cortical pathway for song learning and a basal ganglia pathway for song production that have no structural equivalent in non-vocal learning species. This convergence between songbird and human vocal learning systems, in species separated by 300 million years of evolution, has made songbirds valuable models for studying the neurological basis of language. The white-crowned sparrow, like human languages, develops regional dialects that differ from population to population and change over time, with young birds learning the local dialect of the adults around them rather than a genetically fixed song. In some parrot species, wild individuals have been recorded producing sounds that, when analyzed spectrographically, match precisely the calls of other species, recorded thunderstorms, and in areas near human habitation, human voices. The vocal mimicry of the lyrebird of Australia, which can precisely replicate the calls of dozens of other bird species as well as chainsaws, camera shutters, and car alarms, is perhaps the most dramatic demonstration of vocal learning in the natural world. Let the room settle into its quiet. Notice that the night outside has its own sounds, quieter now, and that your breathing has slowed without you having to ask it to. That is the right direction. Let it continue.
The emperor penguin's winter breeding strategy, in which the birds incubate their eggs through the Antarctic winter in conditions that would kill most other vertebrates, is a result of evolutionary pressures that require the most extreme trade-offs in the entire bird world. The reason emperor penguins breed in winter, when conditions are their most lethal, rather than in summer when conditions are comparatively benign, is that their chicks need to be large enough to survive their first winter, which means they need to hatch early enough in spring to have the full summer to grow. Working backward from this requirement, the egg must be laid in midwinter so that it hatches at the beginning of spring. The male 6 to 5 day fast, balancing the egg on his feet in Antarctic darkness at temperatures that can drop to -60, is a price paid for a breeding calendar that gives the chick the maximum possible time to grow before the next winter. During this fast, the males lose approximately 40% of their body weight. They have no source of heat except each other and the metabolic warmth of their own bodies, which they conserve through the huddle behavior previously mentioned. When the chick hatches, the male produces a small amount of crop milk, a protein-rich secretion from his esophagus, to feed it for the first few days while the female returns from the sea. If the female does not return in time, the male must abandon the chick or starve. The Antarctic winter is not a constraint the emperor penguin is trapped by. It is a schedule it has evolved to exploit, in a way that requires a male bird to perform one of the most extreme acts of parental investment in the vertebrate world. The birds of paradise of New Guinea represent the most spectacular example of sexual selection operating on plumage and behavior in any bird family, and the displays of the males are among the most elaborate performances produced by any animal. Male birds of paradise have evolved extraordinary plumage, including iridescent breast shields, elongated tail feathers, plumes, wires, fans, and crests of every imaginable configuration, and they display these ornaments to females through dances, postures, and movements that in some species look more like something choreographed by performance artists and behavior that evolved by natural selection. The superb bird of paradise spreads a cape of iridescent blue-green feathers to form an almost perfect oval and hops rapidly toward the female while snapping his bill, transforming himself from a small black bird into what looks like a blue-eyed, smiling moon. The Wilson's bird of paradise is a bare blue crown the color of a summer sky and performs on a meticulously cleared court of ground where every leaf is removed before display begins. The display court is not incidental. It is part of the performance, prepared and maintained as deliberately as any stage. Females visit multiple males, observe their displays over days or weeks, and make choices that are selective enough to drive continued elaboration of male ornament over evolutionary time. The result is a family of birds in which the males look like creatures from a dream, and in which the female, comparatively drab, is the architect of that extravagance, having shaped it through millions of years of choices. The lyrebird of Australia is not only the most accomplished vocal mimic in the world, but also a fundamental engineer of the forest ecosystem it inhabits, and its role in its environment was not recognized until recently. The superb lyrebird spends a large proportion of its time scratching through the leaf litter and soil of the forest floor in search of invertebrates, and the sheer volume of material it moves in the course of its foraging has been measured and found to be extraordinary. A single lyrebird turns over approximately 200 tons of soil and leaf litter per hectare per year in forests where its density is high. This activity mixes organic material into the soil, creates conditions favorable for the germination of seeds, and plays a significant role in nutrient cycling. After the devastating bushfires that burned through large areas of Australian forests in recent years, researchers studying the recovery of burned areas found that lyrebird foraging activity was accelerating the return of soil invertebrates, fungal networks, and plant diversity to burned areas, functioning as an ecosystem engineer whose scratching was physically restoring the forest floor structure that fire had destroyed. A bird most famous for its voice turns out to be equally remarkable as a gardener, reshaping the landscape of the forest floor every day in a process that operates below most people's awareness. The lyrebird is not simply living in the forest, it is maintaining it. The sense of smell in birds was long considered rudimentary compared to other vertebrates, and for many species this is broadly correct. But in certain bird families, olfaction is highly developed and plays roles in navigation, foraging, and social behavior that only began to be recognized in the late 20th century. The kiwi of New Zealand, a flightless bird that hunts at night in dense forest undergrowth, has its nostrils at the tip of its long bill rather than at the base as in other birds, and uses smell to locate earthworms and other prey buried in the soil, probing the ground and sniffing out prey that it cannot see in the dark. Tube-nosed seabirds including albatrosses, petrels, and shearwaters have exceptionally well-developed olfactory systems and are known to navigate in part by detecting the chemical signatures of different water masses, upwellings, and coastal areas from hundreds of kilometers away. The snow petrel has been shown to be able to locate its nest burrow among thousands of others on a featureless snow slope in the dark, using smell alone. Vultures of the New World, including the turkey vulture, locate carrion primarily by smell, detecting the volatile compound produced in the early stages of decomposition at concentrations as low as a few parts per trillion from distances of up to a kilometer. The turkey vulture's olfactory bulb, the brain structure involved in processing smell, is proportionally one of the largest of any bird, a visible anatomical marker of a sensory world that most people observing vultures circling overhead have no reason to suspect. Settle deeper now. The night is entirely quiet. Whatever was pressing on you today has loosened its hold. The birds are roosting, most of them, tucked into branches and crevices and burrows, their metabolism slowed for the night, their feathers fluffed against the cold. You are doing the same. That is exactly right. The largest bird that ever flew over this earth was Pelagornis sandersi, a seabird that lived approximately 25 million years ago and had a wingspan estimated at between 6.4 and 7.4 meters, more than twice the wingspan of the largest living bird. It was a member of the pseudodontons, or bony-toothed birds, a group of enormous seabirds that had tooth-like projections of bone along the edge of the bill rather than true teeth. Pelagornis was so large that researchers initially questioned whether a bird of that wingspan could have flown at all, given the weight involved. Aerodynamic modeling suggests it was an extreme soarer, like the Albatross, but at an almost incomprehensible scale, using dynamic soaring and slope soaring above the ocean's surface to travel enormous distances with minimal energy expenditure. Its size would have made taking off from water extremely difficult, and it likely launched itself from cliffs or ran into strong headwinds to become airborne. The extinct elephant bird of Madagascar and Moa of New Zealand were larger in mass than any flying bird, reaching heights of over 3 meters and weights of several hundred kilograms, but they were flightless. The largest flying bird alive today, the Kori bustard and the great bustard, reach weights of around 20 kilograms, already at the apparent upper limit of what flight muscles and wing structure can support in a flying bird. Pelagornis was pushing far beyond this limit, and how it managed the physics involved remains a subject of active research and genuine fascination. Some birds have been recorded sleeping while in flight, and the evidence for this, once considered almost impossible to confirm, has now been documented through brainwave recordings in birds wearing miniaturized electroencephalograph devices. The common swift spends the vast majority of its life in the air, landing only to nest, and its apparent ability to sleep while airborne have been suspected for decades based on observations of swifts ascending to high altitude at dusk and descending again at dawn without having landed. The EEG recording confirmed that swifts do indeed show the brain wave patterns associated with sleep while in flight, apparently sleeping with one hemisphere of the brain at a time while the other remains active enough to maintain flight control, a phenomenon called unihemispheric sleep, also seen in dolphins and certain other birds. The frigate bird, a large seabird of tropical oceans, has been tracked flying for weeks at a time over the open ocean, and brain recordings from birds fitted with EEG devices show that they sleep while in flight, using both unihemispheric sleep and brief periods of full bilateral sleep lasting only a few seconds at a time while gliding. Waking before sustained flight control is required. The total sleep obtained in flight was found to be only a fraction of what the birds obtain on land, suggesting that sleep on the wing is a supplement to rather than a replacement for normal sleep, used to extend time in the air when the demands of migration or foraging make landing impossible. A bird that can sleep while flying is exploiting a possibility that most aeronautical engineers would not have thought to consider. Birds have given human beings some of the most important scientific ideas in history, and the debt that biology owes to birds is incalculable. Charles Darwin's observations of the finches of the Galapagos Islands, 14 species that had diversified from a single ancestral colonist into forms adapted to every available food source on the islands, were a key part of the evidence that drove his thinking toward natural selection. The different beak shapes of the finches, each precisely suited to a different food, were visible proof that inherited variation and environmental selection could, over time, produce forms as different from each other as a species that cracks open hard seeds and one that inserts cactus spines into bark to reach insects. Nicolaas Tinbergen, who shared the Nobel Prize in 1973 with Konrad Lorenz and Carl von Frisch, built much of his foundational work on animal behavior around the study of gulls and their chick-feeding interactions, establishing principles of ethology that apply across the animal kingdom. The discovery of genomic imprinting, an epigenetic phenomenon in which genes are expressed differently depending on whether they are inherited from the mother or the father, was first worked out in birds. The mechanisms of song learning in birds have provided the most productive animal model for understanding the neural basis of human language, driving decades of neuroscience research. The flight of birds inspired human attempts at flight for centuries and eventually contributed to the principles of aerodynamics that made it possible. Birds have not simply been objects of scientific study. They have been instruments of scientific discovery. The relationship between birds and flowering plants is one of the most productive and ancient mutualisms in the natural world, and the diversity of both groups has been driven in part by the co-evolutionary pressures they have exerted on each other. Approximately 900 species of bird are known to be significant pollinators, carrying pollen between flowers in the same way that bees and other insects do, but typically for larger flowers with more nectar and stronger structures capable of supporting a bird's weight or probing bill. Hummingbirds in the Americas, sunbird in Africa and Asia, honeyeaters in Australasia, and lorikeets and lories across the Pacific have all evolved long, curved bills and brush-tipped tongues for accessing nectar in flowers, while the flowers they pollinate have co-evolved tubular forms, red and orange colors, and daytime flowering schedules that match the preferences and activities of their avian pollinators. Many of these flower-bird relationships are so precisely matched that a particular flower cannot be pollinated efficiently by any other species, and the bird cannot obtain nectar easily from any other flower. The loss of one partner from such a system can doom the other. The extinction of certain Hawaiian bird species following the introduction of mammalian predators to the islands has left some Hawaiian plant species with no remaining pollinator, unable to reproduce without human intervention. The flowers are still blooming. The birds that made them possible are gone. The night is at its deepest now, and you have been traveling with these birds for a long time. There is nothing left to do but let the loss of the wakefulness dissolve. The birds are all around you in the dark, still and quiet, their feathers holding the warmth of their small bodies against the night. You can do exactly the same. Some of the rarest birds in the world have been found, lost, found again, and in some cases believed extinct for decades before being rediscovered, and the history of ornithological rediscovery is one of the most dramatic in all of natural science. The coelacanth of the bird world, if such comparison is possible, might be the ivory-billed woodpecker of the American South, a bird so large it was called the Lord God bird by those who encountered it, declared extinct in the mid-20th century after the old-growth forests it depended on were cleared, and then apparently rediscovered in the swamps of Arkansas in 2004 in footage that has been debated ever since. The night parrot of Australia was known only from a handful of specimens collected in the 19th century and was considered almost certainly extinct until a photograph was obtained in 2013, and a small population was confirmed in Queensland. The poli, a Hawaiian honey creeper, was discovered in 1973 and lost again by 2004, with the last known individual dying in captivity. The Spix's macaw, a brilliant blue parrot from Brazil, disappeared from the wild in 2000, and when the last male was lost to the trade in caged birds, surviving only in captivity. In 2022, a small number of captive-bred Spix's macaws were released into restored habitat in Brazil in a reintroduction program representing decades of effort and enormous expense. Whether they survive and establish a wild population will determine whether a species that vanished from the earth for over 2 decades has a future on it. The rarest birds in the world are the most urgent reminders of what the world loses when a voice goes silent. And so we drift gently back from the world of birds, carried on air that feels a little lighter for everything we have found in it, carrying with us a quiet wonder of all we have visited tonight. We followed the wandering Albatross across the Southern Ocean for 580,000 kilometers without a landing, and the Arctic turned across a lifetime of journeys that added up to 3 return trips to the moon. We watched the peregrine falcon fold its wings and become the fastest moving animal on Earth, and found a hummingbird reducing its heartbeat to almost nothing to survive a cold night on a fraction of the energy it burned during the day. We listened to the dawn chorus and understood that the bird song filling the morning is a conversation about territory, health, and desire carried on in frequencies and dialect refined over millions of years. We found crows planning for futures they have not yet experienced, and penguins standing in Antarctic darkness for 6 to 5 days balancing a single egg on their feet in temperatures that would kill most other vertebrates within minutes. We traced a bird in Darwin's hand that helped him see natural selection, and found the lyrebird silently rebuilding the forest floor with its feet while dazzling the world with its voice. We found birds sleeping in flight, birds navigating by quantum mechanics in their eyes, birds whose songs contained the dialect of the valleys they were raised in, and birds whose elaborate displays were shaped feather by the choices of females over millions of years. The birds have been here since the age of dinosaurs, and they are here tonight, outside wherever you are resting, in the trees and on the water and in the air above, each one carrying inside it a set of capabilities that science is still learning to describe. They ask nothing of you tonight. They simply continue, as they always have, in the dark and the quiet and the air that connects everything. If you enjoyed this sleepy journey, you could support the channel by liking, subscribing, or leaving a calm little comment before you rest. It helps more curious minds find their way here. And if you are still awake, there's another video waiting on your screen, ready to carry you onward into another corner of science. But for now, let the questions loosen their grip. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Allow your breathing to slow, steady, and deepen. Picture the sky outside wherever you are, dark and enormous and full of air. Somewhere in that air tonight, a bird is crossing an ocean it has crossed 100 times before, guided by the stars, by the feel of the earth, by the smell of a wind it recognizes from the last time it passed this way. It is not thinking about the distance. It is simply flying, one wing beat at a time, in the dark, toward where it has always been going. Let yourself do the same. Not thinking about the distance. Just breathing. Just resting. Just moving quietly toward the sleep you have always needed. Sleep well, and good night.